Hello and welcome. I am Justin Peter, and my team and I will be presenting on the topic of leadership. Here is our presentation roadmap that we will follow. Rapid globalization, technological breakthroughs, economic and cultural integration present unprecedented risks and opportunities to businesses. We argue that Eisenhower's insight that leadership is about making things happen is still all the more relevant today, 60 years on. Countless examples of organizational success demonstrate that an effective leader articulates a unique vision and drives strategies to continuously reinvent the organization. This is achieved by putting people at the center, inspiring them to strive for excellence and in the process accomplish their personal goals. Successes such as Google and Apple, and disasters like Enron and Lehman Brothers demonstrates the key role of good or bad leadership in making or breaking organizations. There are several leadership theories, but we will discuss two main approaches. The first theory, the behavioral approach, also known as the zeitgeist theory, focuses on the leader's style of functioning. In order to be a successful leader, it is critical that they understand the notion of zeitgeist, which is basically the skill of contextual intelligence, as failure to do so can lead to risks of contextual insensitivity. In other words, if you cannot read the business environment, you risk leading your organization in the wrong direction or choosing the wrong successors. Under this theory, there are five main leadership styles, which are shown in the diagram. On the left-hand side, the leader maintains complete control over the decision-making process and is seen as autocratic. As we move to the right, the leader progressively involves employees in the decision-making process until they completely relinquish all power to their employees. Research under the behavioral approach has generally focused on determining which of these styles is the most effective.
The contingency approach argues that there is no one set of principles to manage an organization. To be effective, different leadership styles are necessary based on different situations. Situations are dynamic, depending on the characteristics of followers, tasks, and organizations. There are several theories under this approach, and we will focus on the more widely accepted Hersey-Blanchard situational leadership model. This model was first published in 1969 by Paul Hersey and Ken Blanchard's book, Management of Organizational Behaviors. The fundamental underpinning of this model is that there is no single best style of leadership. The Hersey-Blanchard situational leadership model rests on two fundamental concepts: leadership styles and the individual or group's maturity levels. Leadership styles. These are defined by a combination of leaders' task and relationship behaviors. They are categorized into four behavior types, which they named S1, primarily a task behavior, to S4, primarily a relationship behavior. There are four levels of maturity of the group, M1 through to M4, as shown in the slide. Maturity levels vary based on the task at hand. That is, they are situational. Example, scientists may be M4 level in the R&D lab, but M1 level in managing budget. Therefore, effective leaders must be flexible to change their style.
How does the behavioral approach differ from the Hersey-Blanchard model? For the behavioral approach, the key strengths are that it promotes participative decision-making, helps managers find the right balance between different leadership styles, and helps them evaluate how their style affects their work teams. In summary, this theory is more practical since it tells us what leaders should do rather than analyze their attributes. However, the behavioral approach overlooks the importance of people and the context of work. The effectiveness of each style is conceptually vague and seems to depend on who is using it. Situational leadership theory is conceptually easy to understand, reflects the competence of the group being led, and emphasizes leader flexibility in applying appropriate styles to suit situations. The main drawback is that it is difficult to apply a style in practice when a leader has limited power. For example, if a leader lacks authority, They may not be able to tell M1 staff what to do.
Here are the key findings and implications of some leadership studies. The Iowa Leadership Studies was based on testing the effectiveness of 3 leadership styles on groups of 10-year-old boys. Lewin found that democratic leadership is the most effective style that produces high-quality work and creative decision-making. The study by Falls et al. Validated Lewin's initial proposition with a similar outcome that democratic leadership results in more satisfied group members than autocratic leadership. The Ohio State Leadership Studies involved measuring different behavioral leadership dimensions. Results showed that 2 critical dimensions, initiating structure and consideration, were essential for effective leadership. The Drude et al. Study further provided a quantitative analysis of the Ohio State behaviors where they found that consideration was strongly related to follower satisfaction, whereas initiating structure was more related to leader job performance. Finally, the Michigan Leadership Studies investigated which leadership behaviors produce higher productivity and satisfaction. They established that employee orientation led to better results compared to production orientation. In conclusion, leaders' behaviors appear to have a direct impact on the job effectiveness of work outcomes. Effectiveness seems to depend on different dimensions of behavior. In general, democratic leadership, employee-oriented behavior, and consideration have shown to produce better job performance.
Now we will examine the validity of the Hersey-Blanchard situational leadership model, a study by Hamilton and Gumpert that randomly assigned 159 managers to high and low performance groups found that the knowledge and use of situational leadership did not yield maximum effectiveness. Furthermore, flexibility of leadership style did not agree with the theory. Butler and Reith's study expanded on Hamilton and Gumpert's study and found a negative correlation between the manager's adaptability and subordinates' performance. Further, S1 style had the strongest positive effect on performance. Albertson et al. Study further considered leadership style, adaptability, and task leadership in high-risk environments, where they found that leadership style adaptability was more complex in group situations and that relationship-oriented styles were favored. Beechio's study of 303 teachers found that the model may only be applicable to certain types of employees. Moreover, recently hired employees needed a high task structure as opposed to high relationship. In conclusion, there is incomplete evidence on Hersey-Blanchard's situational leadership model.
Our case study on Steve Jobs, the late Apple CEO, illustrates both behavioral and situational approaches to leadership. Our case study is based on an article in the Harvard Business Review and supplemented with other references. As an autocratic leader, Steve Jobs was task-oriented. This was in line with his behavior, famously demanding, impatient, and tough with employees, which effectively pushed them to achieve greater performance. Jobs was mostly a directive leader, making decisions on his own and constantly changing product designs despite the work progress. However, we can still see aspects of participative leadership, as Jobs united the employees through their passion and goals. Jobs sourced suggestions for directives from his employees, which he narrowed down to form the company's top 3 strategic goals every year. Jobs also displayed people-orientedness when he had the Macintosh team's signatures engraved in the product to provide recognition and highlight their work as a piece of art. As he claims, real artists sign their work. Although seen as autocratic, we feel that it is a combination of all 4 behaviors that allowed Jobs to successfully lead Apple. We believe Steve Jobs was successful not by virtue of just being task-oriented, but due to his participative and inspirational approach. This is consistent with the behavioral approach.
Steve Jobs was able to situate his leadership authority depending on the scene, where he exemplified a dominant figure in some cases, yet at other times he would include his employees in pitching ideas. Under this theory, the 2 relevant leadership styles are 1. Telling and directing, a high task and low relationship amongst the company, which was pretty evident for Apple's successful products. Jobs had a ruthless corporate culture amongst Apple, and decisions were made through upper-level management. The second one is delegating, a low task and low relationship approach. Jobs pushed people to accomplish more than they could have possibly dreamt of. He once described his job not to be easy on people. My job is to make them better. Apple is a pioneer in innovation, so we argue that in general, their employees tend to be in the M4 category. In such situations, delegating, S4, appears to be the more appropriate style. However, Jobs' personal style was autocratic, S1, and it is well documented that Apple has produced outstanding results under Jobs' leadership. Therefore, this seems to contradict the situational leadership theory. A reason for this could be that Steve Jobs was considered as one of the most inspirational leaders of the new century who inspired his employees. So, we can conclude that the Hersey-Blanchard situational leadership model does not seem to be appropriate to explain Steve Jobs' success.
The situational leadership model is not supported by enough evidence. It also has implementation challenges because of constraints on leaders' power in many organizations. Behavioral approach, which is based on observable actions of leaders, provides better clarity to managers. Employee orientation and democratic leadership seem to suit modern organizations which value creativity and innovation. Therefore, we believe that behavioral approach has more relevance in leadership development.